This is going to be the first video in the series that talks about drawings and how to take a part file that we have and create a drawing from it. Now, our part files are our virtual three-dimensional space where we create things. Our drawing files are where we communicate the specifications of this part, its dimensions and geometry, and generally more information as well, but we'll get to that. To the person that would be essentially creating this part, the engineer, the technician, somebody that's responsible for creating it on a manual mill or lathe machine, or the person that's going to be writing the CNC code to create this. So it's really important, extremely important, that we communicate the very specific dimensions of this to that person. And the way we do that is with drawings. So to create a drawing in Fusion, we go to the File button, and there's an option here that says New Drawing. We're going to click From Design. Now, this is a very simplified version of how to create a drawing. I only have one part in my workspace. If I had an assembly with many components, I would have to choose which of those components or the entire assembly that I wanted to make a drawing from. But since it's only one part, I can just leave it here. I don't have to select the specific ones. I'm going to create a new drawing. Now, we're not using a template at this point, but generally, if you do this for a living, you're going to have templates for every different type of drawing that you do, because there is information or formats that your company uses or that your contract says you need to use, so you would have a template with all that loaded. We're going to be using the ASME standard. This part is in inches, so we're going to use inches. If it's a part in millimeter, then just change this to millimeter, because you want the drawing and the part file to be in lockstep, to be in unison. Now, under sheet size here, you can see that I have several options. I have two A's, a B, C, D, E, and if you look, it gives the inch dimension of each of these sheets. And an E is a very large sheet, 44 inches by 34. I could show a lot of very detailed information on a sheet that size. And sometimes, if it's a very detailed, large assembly, it would need a large sheet to communicate information. For our class, just beginning, we're going to be using A-size sheets. Now, if you notice, these are 8.5 by 11 and vice versa. Well, this is just standard printer paper, so it actually makes it really easy for us to print these out if we need to. And for simple things, this is what I use in class, and this is what we're going to use right now. There's two different ones, because one's portrait and one's landscape. I believe the first one's portrait, and that's the one I'm going to use today. Click OK, and now it's going to open up this sheet. All right, so this is what a drawing sheet looks like. And as you can see, I have my part here that I'm kind of dragging around. It essentially pre-selects the base view option, and that's what I'm dragging around. Some things I want to point out down here is this area is called the title block. The project block here, student CNC project, that's my project folder that I have this file saved in, and the title, quarter-inch captive nut knob Dover ends, that is my file name. That came directly from my part file. Under size over here, let me get rid of this. Under size, excuse me. This is the sheet size that we're using. These codes and DWG numbers, these are generally used when you have a very complex assembly with lots of parts, some type of a filing system to keep all your parts. REV stands for revision. A lot of times my first revision or my A revision is not my final one, where I'm going to make changes to a part to make it perfect before I reach the point where I'm satisfied and I want to print that. But if I didn't put revisions on there, if I didn't have an A, B, C, D, so on and so forth, then I would never know which file is the correct one. So that's what revisions are for. If I had multiple sheets, it would show one of however many here. Scale will come in once we start placing objects. And then finally, here's the author, which is me, and today's date. What you see in here right now is actually automatic. It imports that information. Some of this stuff can be added later under properties. It just depends here. Over on the left, we have our browser. Under document settings, we have all the information here. Now, the first thing you want to do is make sure you have the correct precision. And we already checked our units, but I could change it here if I put the wrong one in. Our linear precision for inches, I really like to have 3 digits or thousands. So when I remember, I change that at the beginning. And under sheet, if I pick the wrong sheet, I can come to sheet settings and I can change it here. And here's where I can select the title block. But if I want to change anything in the title block, I can just go to where it's at, click it, and now it gets me into the title block to change that text. It gets me right out. There's a lot of different stuff on the toolbar here, and we'll kind of go through some of the minimal stuff. But essentially, here's your dimensioning tab. We're going to use this a lot. Anytime I have an arc, I'm going to be using center marks and center lines. And my drawing views are here. So I have to start with a base view. So I'm going to click base view. And as you can see, it imports the view according to how I set up my part file. Now, I actually don't want to show the side view as my primary view. I want to set it as my front view. So yeah, so if I change orientation, I get what I want. And this looks good here. Under style, it actually illustrates better if I place this. So let me place this, click OK, and then all I have to do is come over here and double click again, and it brings that menu back up. As you can see here, I have an outline of the object and I have the dotted hidden lines. So that's geometry that if I were Superman and I could see through the part, I would see where those dotted lines are. The other options I have here are visible lines without the hidden edges. I can have it shaded with or without hidden lines. But generally for drawings, you want to use, and probably the default way you should do it would be the visible with hidden line, or with hidden edges, excuse me. The scale is how large this is going to be on our paper. If I were to do, right now I'm at 1:1, which is real life scale. If I were to do 1:2, it gets smaller. So for every, it essentially cuts it in half. And if I were to do 2:1, it makes it twice as big. Which is nice, but if I'm trying to get more views onto this sheet, then that's too big. So I'm going to go back to that 1:1. And what is nice is I can always go in here and I can do custom sizes, which I do all the time to kind of fit the paper. To me, that actually looks pretty good. I'm not going to worry about these options down here at this point. Later on, that's something we might use, but not right now. Once I have my base view, I'm going to select my projected views. I have to tell the computer what I'm projecting, and then if I roll my mouse around, you can see that I have all these different options to place. Now the thing is, with a very simple object like this, these views look almost exactly the same. So I really only need to show one of those and this top view, and that's going to have all the information that I really need. Now sometimes if there's too much information here, you may want to not show those hidden edges. But the problem is that this information is actually really important, so I have to leave it for this example. But that would be a consideration sometimes if there was too much going on to take away those hidden edges. But for now, it works. All right. And I'm going to show one more view because I always like to show kind of this 3D realistic view on my drawings. I feel like it really helps people understand what it is they're looking at. But if I leave it like this, there's just a lot going on there. So I always like to show this shaded. I feel it's the most realistic. So I'm going to put that in there. Shaded with hidden edges looks even worse. So I'm just going to leave it shaded. To me, this looks very, very realistic. And this is going to help me glance at it and say, okay, I have a better idea of what this drawing is showing me by looking at this kind of 3/4 isometric view of what it should look like, what the object is. All right, on the next video, we're going to talk about dimensioning and how to place dimensions, but essentially it's all through this dimensions menu here. And that's it for this video.